the Pieces team. So always good to get his perspective and see what topics he's interested in talking about too. But yeah, so are we ready to kick it? Ellie, Lucas?
I'm ready.
I guess we've got a relatively small group here. So from Mona, Richard, Brian, Azumbi, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Yeah, Pieces in Widgetbook, we met at FlutterCon. So a little bit of background about what FlutterCon is it's an annual, I guess they probably host it a couple different times a year in different geographic locations. This time it was FlutterCon USA. It was hosted in New York City, New York, and the whole purpose of it is to bring Flutter and Dart developers together and, of course, showcase what people are building out there in the community with Flutter and Dart, and then hear directly from the Flutter and Dart teams about what's going on in those ecosystems, what are the things that they're working on, what are pressing and high prioritized issues for them and for their communities, and then how can we learn new tips and tricks to apply to what we're building. And Pieces was a sponsor. Lucas, was Widgetbook a sponsor?
Yes, as well.
That's probably why they plopped us right next to each other. But
exactly.
Yeah, we were both sponsors of FlutterCon, and what came with that was the opportunity to sort of showcase and have a booth, a dedicated booth there where we could showcase our products, what we're building, build a community, and so on and so forth. And immediately right away, we set up our booth, and lo and behold, right next to us is the Widgetbook team. And yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, and Lucas, feel free to jump in and share yours, we didn't really know what Widgetbook was. And we just saw, I was like, oh, this is a cool tool. It's a group of young people building it. Interesting. And then finally, we were able to get some demos from Lucas and his team. And we're like, okay, what you're building is really cool and could be tremendously useful for us, mainly because the entire Pieces for Developers suite, starting with Pieces OS, the background service, and Pieces for Developers desktop app is all written with Flutter and Dart. And of course, right now is a very timely moment for us because we're thinking about testing and quality assurance and regressions and maintainability of our code and so on and so forth. And so what Widgetbook was doing was really neat. So that's sort of like the technical side of what was interesting and what was, creating sparks. Then there's the personal side, right? Where Widgetbook's an early stage startup company, Pieces is a startup company. We face similar challenges and opportunities as a result via fundraising, hiring, go to market, building a developer community, building things that resonate with developers, teaching them how to use our tools, and so on. So that's kind of how we met and started to build a relationship. I think Lucas, feel free to share your perspective or add anything I may be missing, but that's kind of what got us here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the good thing, we already knew what Widgetbook was before the meetup, but I mean, we also didn't know what was Pieces. And for me, it actually started already the night before. So there was a speaker dinner, and there I already met Savo, your co-founder, and he was already super excited, telling everyone what Pieces is. And Savo really stood out of the crew because developers are usually just there in their t-shirts, maybe a hoodie, and Savo really quickly already suited up. Stood out of the crowd with a white shirt. And in the beginning we were like, yeah, okay, maybe he's more of a business guy, but then it turned out very quickly, okay, he's also a developer. Yeah, very, very quickly connected with your team as well.
Nice. That's so funny. Yeah, I know he was wearing the suit like all weekend, and I think finally it came to a point in time where he was so thrilled to get out of his blazer. And I also
heard about Savo's suit life, and then Jim, our other dev advocate, he made a point to be like, no suits in the future, only t-shirts. And I'm like, okay, I was not planning on wearing a suit anyways, but
it was pretty funny. So yeah, I mean that's what happened at FlutterCon. And then after FlutterCon, at Pieces, of course, and I'm sure similarly Lucas with Widgetbook, but a big time name of our game is building developer community, right? Is working with developers out there in the world, trying to understand what are the problems and pains that they're facing and dealing with. Selfishly, how can Pieces come in and help them with those pains and solve those problems? But in the midst of all of it, we thought it made a lot of sense for us to kind of team up and do a meetup together and bring the community together around Flutter and Dart. Obviously, Widgetbook is heavy Flutter and Dart, Pieces heavy Flutter and Dart. And so, yeah, that's the point of today, is to showcase kind of what Widgetbook and Pieces are doing, how they're potentially leveraging each other's tools, and of course, answer questions as people have them about really anything: developer experience, Flutter and Dart, Burnout, whatever it is. Happy to talk about it. So it's kind of a short audience here. We've got Richard, Mona, Azumbi. We had like 40-something signups. Did something happen that we're just not getting a lot of people in here, or what's going on?
My guess is that, well, it might be also like a meetup thing, because meetup has the same problem where like if you see the event, it's like, oh my god, 200 people signed up. There's gonna be so many people there. But when you go to the actual event, there's like 40 people or like 30 people, and you're like, wait, this does not match. So like,
Yeah.
I think it's also that too.
Yeah, I think it's, when you kind of close it off and you make it a Google Meet or something like that, then people are a little bit more intimidated to join, or they might forget about it because it's not like publicly streaming somewhere. So the numbers of people that join will normally be lower in this kind of situation. If we were to stream it on like YouTube or something, or Twitch, then, obviously there would be more people, but they wouldn't be able to like actually talk with us like Richard here.
What we're gonna have anyways, we're gonna share the recording afterwards on YouTube, so we're definitely gonna get more people that are watching it later. And there's always some no-show rate. This time it's quite steep. So we, for example, hosted a meetup yesterday. We had like 60 signups and had 45 people that were in the webinar then, or in the meetup. So you always have some no-shows. This time it's just a bit more, but I wouldn't be too worried. So in the end, we're putting it on YouTube, so it's gonna be fine.
Okay, well, let's keep it rolling then. Yeah. Nice. Where do you want to take it from here, Ellie?
Well, I think we can go ahead and you can show each other's things. I think how we wanted to do it was Mac does a Widgetbook demo, and then Lucas does a Pieces demo. So I think we can just get right into it. We're just going to do some quick demos, and like, of course, if you have any questions throughout, definitely ask them. Both of the products are built with Flutter, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely on theme with the Flutter. So definitely, if you want to know more about Flutter, or you see anything that you're like, how did they do that? Definitely feel free to ask, or just leave it in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat. So yeah, I think we can get started. I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe you can like flip a coin or something.
I'm happy to rip it, Lucas.
Yeah, go.
All right, let's do it. And also, please correct me if I misspeak at all about Widgetbook. But yeah,
you have my full trust, Mike.
Sounds good. So yeah, let's get started. So I'll provide like a little bit of kind of background context about really why, from my perspective, we were interested in working with Widgetbook as a developer tool. And let's just start with like the desktop app. Let me just close some windows here. So this right here is the Pieces for Developers desktop application. And if you've used Pieces, you'll know we've got a variety of different views. There's a bunch of features in the application. You're familiar with Save Materials. This is where you can take code snippets that you find across the web, save them to Pieces, be able to reference them later on. And then our Copilot chat, which I'll delete that conversation, which is where you can have a generative experience where you can ask questions with the Copilot, interact with them. And then most notably, the Pieces live context feature, where Pieces is continuously sort of shadowing your workflow so that you can come back to the Copilot, ask questions like, what was I doing earlier today? What was I researching in the browser? Who was I communicating with earlier? Or summarize this conversation I'm having in GChat. So there are conversations that are contextual to your workflow. And the reason why I start with that is because this application, I mentioned built with Flutter and Dart, has a ton of widgets, screens. There's a ton of state throughout here. And underpinning all of it, we have absolutely zero automated tests. And so a big focus for us as a company has been, how do we take what we have built and then bring in a more secure testing process to mitigate against regressions, to make sure that our UIs are accurate and up to par with the designs that we have. And then, of course, catch anything before we do any releases. And so that's where Widgetbook starts to come in, right? Where we want to be able to isolate and really pin down some of these that we're using. Let's get this person. Got it. Did somebody join? Okay, sorry. Yeah, so we wanted to be able to showcase these widgets, pull them out, isolate them, test them individually, make sure that they are they're working properly. And so what Widgetbook enables you to do is exactly that. And maybe I can go to you guys have an awesome sort of like demo. Yeah, demo. So you'll notice here, this is a Widgetbook demo, and I'll get deeper into this and how it applies to pieces. But this over here on the left-hand side is a visual representation of all the different widgets that you may have in your application. And they range in size, right? So up here, you've got About Screen, which is an entire view. If you scroll down here, you've got something as simple as a single icon. And so in isolation, you're able to view these widgets and assess them from a quality perspective and make sure that they are exactly what you're intending them for them to be. Knobs, add-ons, these are additional features to really customize your environment, to make your environment appropriate to what you're expecting. So if you're building for an iPhone versus an iPad, you can visualize those differences. If you have something like a dark mode versus a light theme, you can visualize those differences all in Widgetbook. And it goes beyond this, you can tie it into your CI/CD pipeline, you can view visual differences and so on. So what I'll start to get into is how we're starting to use that with pieces. But before I do, I guess, are there any questions, like top level questions about why Pieces was interested and why we wanted to start using Widgetbook?
I saw some new people drop into the room, so I just wanted to kind of say, hey, everyone, I see Andres is here. I don't know if you ever met Andres in real life, but he is so cool. So I'm really glad to see you all here. And yeah, basically, if anyone has any questions throughout this chat, feel free to just type them, or you can turn on your camera. I think Richard has camera on right now. He was chatting with us a second ago. Basically, right now, Lucas and Mac are just demoing the other person's product. So they're just trying their best to do a demo over there. So basically, Mac is a Widgetbook DevRel right now, and Lucas is a Pieces DevRel. And if you have any questions throughout the process, definitely let us know. Right after this, we're just going to get into casual productivity chat. So if anyone kind of has anything they want to share about like how to avoid burnout, that's what Richard wanted to talk about. Flutter in general, anything you want to talk about. This is a meetup. So, we want you guys to connect. And if you want to drop your LinkedIn or your Twitter or whatever Blue Sky link in the chat, feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Anyway, continue on, Mac. I just wanted to say hey to everyone. There's a bunch of people that just dropped in. So
thank you for that. And also, please, I can't see the Google Meet. So please, jump in, stop me, yell at me, whatever, if there's a question to answer or a place to stop and double tap on a specific topic. So don't hesitate to do that. Is that cool? Cool. All right, so yeah, where we're at is kind of the intersection of being a Pieces developer and building the Pieces for Developers desktop application, which, like I mentioned, is built in Flutter and Dart, and then leveraging a tool like Widgetbook to start to bring some more structured processes to handling like quality assurance for all the different Flutter widgets and pages that we have being used inside of the application. And so I'm a brand new Widgetbook user as of this past weekend. So I've been really into like the quick start and trying to get up and running with it. And, my plug with Pieces, right, is I've been using Pieces this whole time. And this is exactly what Pieces was built for. which is to save, code snippets with the related context related to the research that you're working on. And so you'll notice, I've got the Pieces web extension. I can copy and save these code snippets. This is how I get started with Widgetbook. I've already done some of these things, but you'll notice I've got some of these saved snippets here, installing the Widgetbook packages in Flutter, creating the empty Widgetbook project within my project. This has been a good one, Lucas, which is the theme add-on and just learning how to use the add-ons. They're pretty simple, but just being able to remember them easily without having to go back to the docs and find it in the docs is really nice.
Amazing. So like essentially you are using Pieces to use Widgetbook for Pieces, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
Yep, exactly, 100%. And so, yeah, let's show what this looks like, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just pull up in my editor. Can you all see me? Can you see my screen, Phil?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is like a little behind the scenes under the hood, ignore these red squiggles over here. But this is some of the Pieces for Developers Suite mono repository, basically. And there's a couple things that make up our project. Pieces for X, that's the core desktop app. And then this thing called Runtime Client. And what Runtime Client is it's an external package that we've built and we maintain that includes a lot of our sort of like foundational widgets and styling. And so that's all part of what we refer to as the particle library. So you'll see a variety of widgets in here: action card button, icon button, drop downs, just normal buttons, and so on. And then paired with a bunch of styles, borders, sizing, spacing, themes, and things like that. And what we do is we use this package as a shared package across all the different Flutter applications that we build here. And we build quite a few of them. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring Widgetbook into this package so that I could now have more of a visual representation of the various widgets, test them out ahead of time, and then I'll know that when we go to use them inside of any application, be it the desktop app or shared Copilot, it's going to be working not only visually as expected, but functionally as expected too. And so I've got a couple of examples. The first thing that I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead. I've already set up my Widgetbook, so I'm not necessarily going to go in the process of setting it all up, although we totally could if you guys want me to. But I'm going to go ahead and run what I currently have, and then I'm going to go through the process of creating a new use case, which is sort of the, I don't know, Lucas, would you consider a use case like the main, like bread and butter of Widgetbook?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you always need to create a use case for a widget in order to catalog the widget in Widgetbook. And that's why it's usually the first thing that you're doing. So definitely makes sense to demo it. And it's great that you're doing so, Mac, because the demo that I'm giving you guys on Pieces is actually helping with that.
Awesome.
Also, I just wanted to ask a really quick question. So I just want to know actually how many people in this room have used Widgetbook or even heard of Widgetbook? Like if you've used it or heard of it, just send some kind of emoji, like a heart or something, or this cheer. Has anyone used it or heard about it? Oh, I see. Okay, we got 3 people, I think, including me is 4. Okay, I just want to kind of know what the numbers were there. We're going to do another one for Pieces after this, but I guess this is a Pieces meetup, so everybody heard about Pieces. But anyway, you got 4. It's a pretty solid number, Lucas.
Yeah, I think especially given the number of attendees, so it's basically everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's keep going. So what I've got so far is a basic visualization of a few of our widgets. And so the first one, very simply, is like our action icon button. And what this is just an action button that we use everywhere, right? All of these are this widget. You'll notice that they're just kind of all over the place. Clickable text, just, can I click some text to perform an action? Our button, which is really nice. And the thing that I want to call out over here that I actually love, and Lucas is a really awesome feature, is the knobs. And if I was to explain knobs, I would call them the dials, right? They're the properties of this widget that you can adjust, amend, and change to try and see different versions of that widget. So in this case, I want to add a little border to my button. Maybe you can't really see that, it's really faint. Maybe I want that to be rounded, or I want it to be a little bit more smaller. I want to change the text and see, this is a longer text button. And then the UI will react accordingly so that I can assess, is this working how I want it to? Absolutely love the knobs. Very, very nice feature. And then
amazing. And I see you really created a lot of knobs for that widget. Amazing.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then I also, for what it's worth, I've identified a knob that I'm going to also try and create using I know you have a custom knob feature, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to be able to create a custom knob because I want to be able to apply different iconography in here. So a knob for icons. So, the next thing there is the add-ons, right? So obviously we've got this in light mode. I want to be able to visualize this button in dark mode as well, make sure that the theme changes accordingly. And yeah, so that's the button looking really nice. And then that ranges, right? Obviously a button is fairly simple. You can increase the complexity. This is like a tag card. And so where I'll show where that is in pieces is we've got this captured context view. And what this view is representing is all the different context surrounding the snippets and the materials that you've saved to pieces. And so these are websites that I visited that are associated with the snippets that I saved from Widgetbook. And then I'll go over here to tags. You'll notice that this tag is this right here. There's a couple of little differences because I haven't applied all the different properties to it, but this is that widget. And so I want to visually represent that here in Widgetbook. So I was working on that one earlier. We've got another one that we'll go build. I found in widget, Lucas, you'll like this feedback. I find it so nice and easy to create a new use case, a new widget. How do you even refer to it? Like a widget representation in here? What would you even call this?
Yeah, so in the end, usually the naming convention is you have Widgetbook components. And for those Widgetbook components, you can either create one or multiple use cases. So for example, for your action icon button, you have just one use case, but for your smart image component, you have two use cases, one emoji and one icon. Yeah.
Exactly. This was a fun one. I was playing around with the sizing. Looking good.
Nice. Yeah, always good to have a bigger party.
Always good to have a bigger party. Exactly. So any questions before I keep moving forward? I'm trying to be mindful of time. I've got a nice plan to create a new use case to just show folks how to do that. It's really easy. It's kind of a good time. So any questions before we keep moving forward?
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand or just drop them in the chat if you want to, or if you want Mac to do anything in particular that he's not doing, you can just let him know there and he'll do it probably if it's within, the reasonable ask, of course. Yeah, so I was thinking probably around like the last 20 minutes, we want to kind of just get into the productivity section and just talking and Q&A. So just sort of to be mindful of the time.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, I'll be super quick. It's 12:30 now. I'll hopefully be able to spin this up in like 5 minutes, but let's go create a use case. I've got a blank file here and I want to create a use case. I want to create a new component representation for this drop-down button. This drop-down is a pretty heavily used feature across the application. You'll see it in here. It's big time in our settings. These are all drop downs. They're everywhere. So it's a nice widget. But yeah, let's create the use case for it. So I'm going to start with just this @use case annotation that is from the Widgetbook team. And let's see, it's going to hopefully prompt me to do some auto imports here. Yep, there we go. Context. We're going to go auto import that from the Widgetbook annotation library. And then this is going to yell at me because I need a name and a type.
Can you click like Control+?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Or just zoom in a little bit. I don't know. If maybe Control+ doesn't work. I don't know what you're on.
It does not work in IntelliJ. Give me a sec. Thought it would work. Oh, yay for live demos. Let's see here. 'Cause see.
Richard, are you inspired to try Widgetbook now? Are you going to try it? I'm curious. Richard?
Honestly, I should. There's so many things I need to try, but I just don't have the time. I'm just
Right.
like, I need to focus on one thing at a time because I don't want to like spread myself too thin. I'm like, okay, if I try something, I want to go in deep. I don't want to go in like, oh, I'm just gonna try it surface level, move on to the next thing. Right now, I'm working on getting a little more deeper level with Git Kraken, and then once I finish that, I'm gonna move towards Widgetbook.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think that's also on the burnout topic that we were talking about earlier. If you kind of do a bunch of things at once, it's easy to get burnout and overwhelmed by everything. I'm definitely guilty of that. I what's that called? There's like some sort of flashy object syndrome or something. I don't remember what it's called. Sparkly item. I feel like I'm not getting it right, but basically you see something and you're like, ooh, that looks fun. You're like, I'm gonna spend an hour doing this, and then it's like, okay, what about this? So definitely just do what you need to do, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So is this a little bit better, Ellie?
Yes, that is better. And by the way, Richard did send some feedback on our new Sublime docs this morning. So I mentioned it in the chat about our little feedback button thing. So I hopefully his feedback is good. Richard is like the doc master, so I'm sure he has some good thoughts on that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Richard.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Okay, so we're in the middle of creating our use case. Sorry, I got the Zoom working, but any Obsidian or sorry, Raycast users out there?
Yeah, send an emoji if you use Raycast. I have never used Raycast, so I have no idea.
So I actually don't use Raycast for anything other than being able to easily use emojis. That's what I found it to be the most useful thing for me. Party. Let's go to add a wave. Emoji. My wave. So we're creating the drop-down items. We're just going to use these here. And for sake of time, we're just going to use the first one. We're not going to add anything there. And I actually there's a property of the drop-down button that I want to use a knob for. And that's whether or not to show the value of the text, basically showing the text value in the button itself. So to use a knob, we're going to go ahead and on the build context, we're going to do context.knobs. And there's a variety of places I can import it from. I usually just keep going, and I want the Boolean. And I go back. Nice, the main widget book repository. And this wants a label, value, initial value, false. So you'll see what this translates to when we go to the UI. But yeah, this will enable me to toggle this Boolean of whether or not to show the value and how that appears on the UI. Anything else to kind of add in here, Lucas, while I'm making this use case here?
No, I mean, it looks really, really solid, what you do, Mac. Great.
Nice. All right, cool. So now what I need to do is I need to update this generated file. So we could talk more about what this generated file is doing, but this is essentially taking these use cases that I've declared and it's creating the folder structure for the Widgetbook UI to represent those widgets. And so to do that, this is actually a snippet that I've saved in Pieces. You'll notice here I've got the Pieces JetBrains extension. And let's see here, where is it? Build runner command for Widgetbook. Hopefully this comes up. There it is. Copy that. I'm going to go overhead in my terminal. I need to go in a different repository.
Nice. That's such a useful Pieces feature. I also heavily use it now with the VS Code extension.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. So we're going to update this generated file here. And then once this file is generated, we're going to go ahead and just refresh the UI. Give it a moment. done. And you'll see we're building this here. Hot restart. Now we've got a new widget here in our tree, particle drop-down icon button. It's got our first party item in there. So I can click this, I can see my party, I can see the wave. Fortunately, I can't quite select them to change it. And then we've got our knob. So you'll see this is the label that we declared, and then the initial value is false. So the knob is turned off basically. But I can turn that on. When I turn that on, you'll notice that it shows the label. And party, wave, there's a new widget in my widget book, and now I can verify that this is working properly. If I go check this out on dark mode, there we go. Same thing, looking pretty good. Turn value off, looking pretty good. So that's Widgetbook. That's how we're using it with Pieces and at Pieces. We're pumped about building more of this out. There's definitely some learnings along the way. For what it's worth, Lucas, I just started getting into like the assets part of this.
Nice.
Which is going to be interesting. So we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Is there so far, Mac, anything where you feel like we could still help you even better? Anything we could improve?
So far, it's been pretty nice. I'm excited to get into the custom knobs to check that feature out. I did a little bit of work with the assets this morning. My first attempt with it was not working properly, so I was probably doing something wrong. I was also going at the speed of light, so I'm sure I was doing something radically wrong.
We have an entire dedicated page for assets in the docs.
I know. I was reading it. I was going.
Okay.
That's what I was following. So we'll see if I can get that to work. But if I can't, I may call you up and see if you can help me out.
Definitely happy to help. I'm curious. Is there anyone in this call that already used Widgetbook? I mean, there were some that said they already heard about it. But are there any other Widgetbook users here?
Yeah, if you actually use Widgetbook, send a heart. Okay, Mac. Oh, we got Sam.
Nice, awesome.
Nice.
We got Mona. Mona sent a heart.
Mona as well.
We got 2 people besides Mac.
Nice, amazing. Yeah, I mean, guys, if you want to share your experience as well, just feel free to drop it in the chat. If you have any questions regarding it, I'm definitely happy to help.
Yeah, and if you want to be friends with Lucas, I'm sure he wants to be friends with you. So I don't know, Lucas, if you want to drop your LinkedIn, or you don't have to, or your Twitter or something.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so if you use Widgetbook, like, who else is better to be friends with than Lucas? I don't know.
Nice. Well, yeah, so that's my stuff. Lucas, you want to take us away? And
yes, I'm gonna
look. Andres wants to be your friend, Lucas. See, we got it. He said, Fam said, can we have AI Gen for quickly create use case?
Fam, I'm gonna blow you away with Pieces now, because I actually tried that with Pieces, and I mean, I don't want to now say everything in advance already, but Pieces can help you with that. So let me show you how it works.
Let's go.
Do you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, amazing. So first of all, let's get back to our demo app here. So Meg already showed it, right? So that's a demo app that you can just access straight from our docs, where you can then see in the end all of the different widgets of our demo app already cataloged. And what we already had in this demo app was a primary button. What some of our users were asking was, hey, can we also see how it would work with a secondary button? And we didn't have a secondary button yet. So I said, sure, that's going to be a quick project for me. Let me do it. And I actually used Pieces for that. So Pieces does not only, Ellie, yes, please.
Can we zoom in a little bit on
both
sorry.
Yeah,
like right. Maybe zoom 2 times. Yeah, that looks good.
I mean here, no, don't want to front Mac here too much, but I mean VS Code is just a better IDE, right? So there you can just easily zoom in.
I was completely shocked that IntelliJ would not let me hit Command Plus or zoom in. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, we also have that war internally at Widgetbook. So most people use VS Code, but we also have one very strong believer in JetBrains or IntelliJ. Yeah, so in the end, what you can do, and now unfortunately it's not as easy as it should be, but you also have a Pieces app for VS Code, or an extension for Pieces. And Pieces has, in the end, two extensions. One is the Explorer, and the other is the Copilot, and that you can use. And Copilot, in the end, works very similar to ChatGPT. Explorer, Meg already showed us briefly how you can use it. But what I just did was I copied my entire primary button, and then we have a neat feature where you can just do a right mouse click, and you see Pieces right on the top. And then you can just say, okay, I want to save this active file to Pieces. And what's happening under the hood is it is immediately getting saved. No, not in the Copilot, but in the Explorer. So we're basically, Pieces now under the hood understood it, learned from it, knows exactly, okay, that's the context. And what you can then do easily, I don't want to code live here in case something goes wrong. So I already did that. And let me give you a bit more of this space here. Otherwise, probably hard to see.
If you actually, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So what I basically said was, hey, Pieces, can you please create a secondary button that is similar to my primary button? And Pieces went ahead and just created this button for me. And I mean, as a developer, in the beginning, you're always a bit skeptical, maybe. Hey, what does this generated code do? So I scanned it, and yeah, it looked really good. So I went ahead, copied it, and then what I did is I created a new file here, my secondary button file, and in the end, I just took exactly what Pieces gave me. I didn't change a thing here. And what I then did was we now need to be able to get the secondary button into Widgetbook. And I mean, Meg by now is already a kind of Widgetbook expert, so already had a few days using it. So also Meg already did it now in like 2 or 3 minutes, getting a use case. But Pieces can actually make it even faster for you. So what I then did was I asked Pieces, hey, based on my current file store, I asked Pieces here if it can create a Widgetbook use case for the secondary button. And first, it generated a more generic use case, and then I just had to tell it, hey, can you please use the add use case annotation for me, and that Meg used, because in the end there are 2 ways of using Widgetbook, either with annotation or without. In the end, my fault, I didn't prompt it correctly, so I didn't say it should use the use case annotation. But when I told it, it basically gave me that code snippet here. And again, I could just copy it, could then use it, could basically just paste it in here. Again, I didn't change a thing. Afterwards, pretty much what Meg showed, you gotta run the build runner again to update the Widgetbook, and then I just ran it, and that's the result. So it took me like, I don't know, in the end, a few seconds, what usually would take a lot longer with Pieces. So very, very quick and easy hack. So for all the Widgetbook users out there, just combine your Widgetbook usage with Pieces, and you are super fast.
Let's go. I love that. Hey, Lucas, have you had any opportunity to check out the live context feature in Pieces yet?
So we tested it a bit, and the funny thing how we did it was we used it for sprint planning.
Nice.
So I don't know what you guys are using, but we're using Linear for sprint planning or for Indian project management, and we have a lot of conversations going on in our Slack channel. contexts. And what's usually happening is you're working on something in linear, but you're not commenting everything in linear. You might just chat via Slack. And then a lot of times when you are then kind of replanning the task or in the end creating a new task in linear that is not based on some linear context, but on some Slack context, you as a human, we only have, I don't know, X capacity in our brain, so you might just lose it. Yeah, Pieces doesn't. So that helped really well in the end. Pieces, I would really describe it, it's like this long-term memory of your organization. So it basically, you can just connect it with all of the different tools that you're using on a daily basis. And you don't need to force yourself to remember everything, because Pieces will just take care of that for you.
Yeah, I love that. One of my next steps that I want to do with our widget book is I want to actually add my repository, just that runtime client repository, to the context of Pieces. And I want to prompt it to generate me use cases for all the widgets.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see how to do it.
Meg, I'm curious, is there a limit of, for example, lines of code or anything that you can store in Pieces, or is it completely limited? So in the end, can I store whatever repository size, and how many repositories I like, or is there any limit to it?
So what we're gonna end up doing is, one, you can try. So I always encourage people to try it. The more granular you can be with the context that you're providing, the more likely that the Copilot and Pieces will be able to provide an answer that's relevant to what you're actually interested in. So think about it like a search space. So the bigger the search space that you have as a repository or a code set, the harder it will be to find that exact thing that you're asking about. But that being said, there is no limit. The only limit that we have is based on the large language model that you're currently using for the Copilot in Pieces. And so they have token limits, context token limits that they set. So what we'll do is we'll try and essentially build up that context using retrieval augmented generation and build that up until that limit, and see how that goes. So that's on the input. On the output, there's no limit. I mean, I would probably prompt it in such a way to give me multiple messages as outputs, as opposed to like one ginormous message that takes 2 hours to generate. But no, there's not a lot of limitations on that. Fam, what was your question? Can we have AI gen for quickly creating? What was the question? Fam was trying to ask. Maybe they want to ask it again. That's my question.
Feel free to ask it again. Maybe we didn't answer their original question about the AI gen. So feel free to ask it again and we'll definitely get to it. We are getting close to like the last 10 minutes of this stream, this video call. So, if anyone has any questions regarding, what we just talked about, or about productivity in general, burnout, staying productive when you're working, when you're not working, that's what we're here to answer, at least to the best of our ability. So definitely feel free to drop those questions in the chat or raise your hand and just ask us. I don't know, Richard, if you had a question. Okay, go ahead, Richard. See, I read your mind. I knew you had a question.
Yeah, so I think I found the person's question. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Fan? The question was, can we have AI gen for quickly create use case? I think they meant quickly creating use case.
Yeah.
I mean, Mac, do you want to go ahead? I mean, AI gen is, I think, more your field than mine.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of just talking about this. One way to do this is by leveraging Pieces, right? And so Pieces, depending on the context that you may provide to Pieces, either through the form of saving materials like widgets to Pieces, associating context like folders and repositories manually to Pieces. I'll just show you kind of like what that could look like. Here we've got the desktop application, which is what I'll share. And of course, as Lucas and I mentioned, we've got a plugin for Visual Studio Code, the entire JetBrains suite, so IntelliJ, PyCharm, whatever you may be using over there. And our Copilot is accessible across all of them. And so via the Copilot, there's a variety of ways you can leverage context for this. And that's context related to your specific workflow, your specific project, whatever that may be. From the simplest to the most advanced, I'll go with the save snippets first. What this is going to do is you're essentially going to opt into telling the Copilot, hey, use this saved snippet as context for this conversation. So in that context, maybe it's that build runner command, maybe it's this material theme add-on. You could very well save content that's related to generating use cases and use that as context. That's sort of a manual, relatively easy thing to grasp. Then you've got files and folders, which would be, as you'd expect. So you could take an entire folder, whether that's a local repository or whatever it may be. In this case, I've got this folder of widgets. So maybe that's something that I want to go and add as context to the Pieces Copilot. So now that Copilot conversation can be grounded in a lot of the content of those folders. And then the last one there, which is one of our most exciting features that we're really excited about, is live context. Live context is powered by a piece of technology that we refer to as the workstream pattern engine. And what the workstream pattern engine is doing is it's proactively, behind the scenes, proactively sort of capturing what exactly are you looking at. So in this case, I'm looking at the Widgetbook docs about custom knobs. I'm looking at the Widgetbook demo page. I've got some information about our meetup and what we're going to go talk about. I've got a testing checklist. And so live context in Pieces is going to have a good sense of some of the things that you've been working on. And you can now then come to Pieces and have a conversation about that. And so there's a variety of ways you can do that. And so, if you're interested in using AI to generate use cases, a really good way to do that might be by adding the folder of widgets to the Copilot and then asking it to generate use cases. And I'm not going to do it exactly right here. I mean, I could try it. I've never done it, so I don't know exactly how that would do.
Yeah, but I mean, in the end, I already did it, right? So that was pretty much what I showcased. So that I can really confirm it's working very well.
Yeah, and you can also, if Lucas was doing it earlier, you can, rewatch that part if it was too fast or something, and then you can definitely try it on your own device if you download Pieces, and you can try it. It should work pretty well, and we're also, improving live context literally every week. I don't know, it's gonna get better and better. I just saw Jim wanted to share a short on our improved live context, and it does way better. You don't even have to be super specific about things anymore. Like before, you'd be like, look at this exact page that I'm looking at, and then it would tell you the information. But now you could be a little bit more vague and you'll still get a good answer. I see Richard, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, so I had a question of my own. So I was curious because I know there's a lot of conversations about AI, right? Like there's spaces about AI, like the implications on the workflow and what potential future we have for as developers and as a society. So I was curious what your opinions are on regarding AI burnout in terms of like the conversations as a whole around AI. Like, do you feel like at a certain point there might be a sense of, oh, this conversation's about AI again, or something like that?
I'm happy to take that if nobody else wants it.
Yeah, do it.
I think certainly, yeah, Richard. I think people may definitely feel that. I mean, my sense is that you may be feeling that, right? That's why you kind of brought it up, and it's just AI this, AI that. I think that where it becomes very unique is how people are starting to apply these AIs, right? And you'll see they're starting to get more and more. I think they're starting to get more and more granular, right? Where you're starting to see people that are coming up with agents that can interact with other tools. If you saw the Anthropic release the other day, where they're starting to use a lot more vision to start to bridge the gap between, the contextual understanding of things and then putting those understandings into action. And I think that's something that we're interested to here at Pieces is leveraging the visual aspect and pairing that with AI, and then really starting to think of what are these like granular tasks that people have to do every single day that are very taxing and maybe more cumbersome, and that we can augment with AI. And I think that I wasn't around when this happened, but when like the entire internet kind of came about and people were like talking about the internet nonstop and what they could do with the internet and all these different things, my guess is it was something very similar. Whereas like, oh, this internet thing, who cares? I already know about it, like blah, 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 we gotta talk about it again. That's the magnitude of like the opportunity that we have right now in our generation with AI. And it's definitely a little exhausting, I think, for folks, but it's very exciting to see how people are starting to apply it. What are the different things that people are identifying as these annoyingly boring, like rudimentary tasks through our workflow, and how do we kind of leverage, artificial intelligence systems to do those tasks? I don't know. Does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, for sure. I had a follow-up question actually. So do you think that because of those advancements within the AI space, do you think that in a certain sense that having too many AI tools available to us can lead to potential burnout in that sense? Like, oh my goodness, there's way too many AI tools. Like there's Widgetbook, there's Pieces, there's this one, there's that one. Like just like being overwhelmed with like the amount of choices you have. Because as someone who was trying to transition from a non-technical background to being into tech, I was definitely overwhelmed by the amount of free resources that was available online. Like there's free code camp, there's 100 devs, there's YouTube, there's a variety of YouTube videos. Like look up no tutorial and you'll instantly come up with like, I don't know, 100,000 results. And you're like, okay, which one do I pick then?
My initial instinct is you just got to do your own research and do what's right for you. There's all these other tools out there. They're all going to be unique and different in some way, shape, or form. It's what works best for you. And for me, I went through a similar experience when I was learning how to code, like 6 or 8 years ago, and there were so many different resources available. I picked Code Academy because it had the best instruction from a fundamentals perspective. It really got granular just with the fundamentals, variables, objects, the difference between different types of variables, so on. So like that's what made me choose it. And it also I was able to do things all in place. I didn't have to go and get set up with an IDE because I didn't know how to use an IDE. I didn't have to go and start getting set up with all these packages because I didn't understand what the heck packages were. And so that's where it came down to what was the best for me and how I learn and how I want to learn. And I would recommend the same for anybody else too, right? It's just stay true to yourself, try and find what's right for you. It sounds like the good thing is that you have a lot of options. And so, it's up to you to kind of figure out, which option you want to explore, and be picky, be picky, because there are all these options. If you go to a site and the site's not necessarily up to par at first glance, and you're like, I don't even want to try and understand, go to the next one, and be picky and be kind of ruthless in what you're selecting. And the same thing with AI tools, is be picky in those tools. If you go to one, you go to another, and one is obviously better or has more reputation or whatever it is, use it. And then sometimes what I also say is there's a lot of like competition, a lot of people coming out with new AI tools, but there's not going to be a lot of AI tools forever. So it's going to kind of be this kind of like big growth curve where there's a lot to start and then a lot of them start to fall off a little bit. And so if you just let that dust settle a little bit, you'll start to see some of those winners, and it'll make those selections more clear.
Yeah, and maybe adding on that.
The way you phrase that.
Oh yeah, please. Oh.
I was just saying, like, I really liked how you phrased the dust settles part, because I think that's very much what we're in right now with the AI spectrum, is that we're currently seeing a rise of products and like increase of, here's this new tool, here's this new thing, like check us out or check this out. It's like, okay, so let's wait until the dust settles and see who are the real winners, right? And I think that was really well said and really well put. What were you gonna say, Lucas?
Yeah, just one addition. So what really helped me as well, or is still helping me, exploring kind of new tools in new areas where I don't have a great expertise yet, is doing exactly things like we are doing today, where you can learn also from peers. So just talk to other people who are in a similar situation, and even better is if you're able to surround yourself with people who are already more experienced in that field, where you still want to go, and just ask them, hey, what would you recommend me to do? And in the end, you will then have people that you really trust for certain fields, that you always know, okay, if I need advice about topic X or Y, yeah, I, for example, always consult Mac or Richard regarding those topics.
Oh, for sure. Like the reason why I got into Pieces and was interested in Pieces was because I knew Ellie, right? Like if I didn't know Ellie, I would probably be like, oh, Pieces is just another AI co-pilot that I'm probably not going to bother with. But because I knew her and I met her at that conference, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go over to their booth and check it out and talk to them. And like, I'm like, okay, now I'm talking to them. I'm like, okay, these guys seem really cool. I seem like they really care about the product. Let me actually download it when I get home back from the conference and check it out. So
yeah, love that. Thank you, Ellie.
That's awesome. I love that too. Yeah, at that conference there were so many, you know, tech Twitter people, and I think a lot of them ended up downloading it because they know us from, you know, the internet, and they finally met us in real life. So they were like, okay, now I have to download it. And I think that a similar thing will happen at All Things Open. We're going next week. I think also Sophia is here, by the way. I wanted to say hi to Sophia. I think you know Sophia, Mac.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, Sophia is awesome. Shout out to Sophia. And I saw in the chat, Mona and Victor, we were talking about, you know, the options when it comes to like learning how to code websites. You know, there's Codecademy, Free Code Camp. Richard, you mentioned that as well. It is very overwhelming because when everybody on the internet is like, oh, I love Free Code Camp, that's what I'm using to learn JavaScript. And then you go and you start using it and you're like, this is not making sense. But then you go find some obscure website and you're like, this works for me. You know, there are so many choices, but I think you can figure out pretty quickly if something works for you or not. Like I was trying to learn C# for the first time a while ago, and I found out that the best resource was this book called the C# Player's Guide, and they made it, you know, basically for as an intro to game dev, you know, with C#. So the whole book is about C#, but like I guess it expects you to go into using Unity afterwards. But it was the best C# like anything that I've seen. It's super interactive, even though it's a book, and there are so many like challenge problems, and I need the hands-on project-based learning to actually learn. Like I'm not a Codecademy fan because they provide you so much code without explaining it, and they're like, here, make your lemonade stand, and I'm like, okay. So definitely I think you'll find out pretty quickly what works for you or not. And the same with like AI tools. If you download something or even an IDE and you're like, this is not intuitive for me, then I feel like you can just go and try something else out. Yeah, there is an issue with, you know, but I think if something doesn't have a free tier, then a lot of people won't try it, right? Like people won't even know if they like it or not because they're like, I don't want to pay $10 if I've never tried it before. So
yeah, that's true. So I always think that you should be able to try it for free to really know if it's then something that's useful to you. But the moment you then realize, okay, wow, it's actually useful for me, I think as soon as you then pull the credit card, at least that's learning from my own personal behavior. I'm usually a lot more engaged with it, and I'm also going to be a bit more picky, even if it's, I don't know, paying only $1 a month or something. So even though it's not even much, that's then the moment you are really more involved in that whatever project it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like there definitely is a truth to, you know, when you pay for something, then you value it. Even when I see people, I know a lot of people that do that sort of job search advice sessions. I don't know if you've seen that online, where it's like HR or recruiter people, and they're like, hey, you know, book a one-on-one with me and I'll give you advice on your resume or whatever it is, or your LinkedIn. And a lot of them that I've talked to say like they would actually want to just give the advice for free because they have a job and stuff. They just want to do this for fun. But like if you do that, then people don't really value it as much, and people end up not showing up sometimes. So they are like, well, I have to charge for it because it's just too annoying to not, because people just don't value it as much. And I think the same thing goes for, you know, any product that you're using. You know, if you pay for it, you'll definitely remember it, and you're like, all right, this is taking money out of my bank account every month, like I better use it.
Well, actually, as a counterpoint, I feel like there are certain scenarios where I can definitely see, even though you pay for it, you'll forget about it. Like, okay, a really good example of this is gym memberships. I can definitely see a scenario where someone's like, oh, I want to sign up for the gym because, you know, I want to start working out, I want to change my ways, and then 5 months into, like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, what?
Here's
Okay,
my.
that is true.
Are you talking about like how you're paying for things and that you don't remember that you're paying for it?
Yeah.
Here's my subtle plug for Rocket Money. That's what I use. It's an app. It's called Rocket Money, and obviously you can have insights into like what you're spending money on, but they'll also kind of elevate subscriptions that maybe you want to cancel, or recurring stuff that you're maybe not using, and they do like single click for a lot of them, not all of them, but they're just helpful to have better insights in like what you're spending on. Yeah.
That's cool. You should get like a promo link that gives you a percentage of sales on it.
There's my promo for
Like-
that. I haven't used it. It's really nice. It's nice because you can like merge, like if you got like multiple cards and stuff, or like you know, I don't know what it is, but you can merge that all, and then you've got your constant stream of transactions. So no matter what card you're using, there you go.
And we
That's
got
the reason why
a
I'm so
message.
picky.
Oh, go ahead, Richard.
Oh no, I was just saying like that's the reason why I'm so picky with subscriptions. It's like I'm like, okay, I am a poor developer that is looking for a job. So if I am paying for something, it's gotta be something I really, really, really need.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely go through my subscriptions like maybe every few months, and I realize that I'm paying for some, you know, learning to code things. And I'm just like, okay, I probably should cancel this. I haven't used it in a while. That's why I love Free Code Camp. I do. They have. Before it was totally free and they didn't have like any ads or anything, but recently they added like this pop-up that you have to watch. It was annoying me, so I was like, okay, I'll donate some money to get rid of the pop-up. But Free Code Camp is awesome. Rebecca sent in a message though. She is really happy to understand Widgetbook more, so she's going to try it out. I'm very excited about that. And the clipboard thing Mac did was mind-blowing. So they use Notion to save snippets and organize thoughts, and we'll try out Pieces as well. Yeah, saving snippets is like a huge, very cool thing you can do with Pieces, and you can even share them with other people. So if you had like, you're in VS Code, or if you're using Obsidian, did you say Obsidian? Oh, Notion. I don't know what, if you're using Notion in the browser, you could also save something as a snippet, I'm pretty sure, from there. But if you're, you know, in VS Code, you could save a snippet. And then if you share it with someone, it like gives all the context of the snippet and like tags and really cool information. So definitely try it out. Yeah, it is really cool, Rebecca. We're going to post a video. Jim just made a little short explaining that. I think it was about like Star Wars or something. I'm not sure. But we will be sharing that on, you know, YouTube and TikTok and stuff. So keep your eye out for the Pieces shorts. Maybe we'll do it to Twitter too. I don't know if you have our Twitter, but definitely it is a cool use case.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Well, anyway, folks, I don't want to cut this off because it's going really nicely, but I do have to get back to some other work. We're about 10 minutes over. Really, really appreciate everyone taking the time to learn about Widgetbook and Pieces, and Lucas. This was fun. Maybe we'll do something again. Maybe we'll do something live in person somewhere sometime. That could be fun. Maybe bring some alcohol. But
Same to last time. You should ask your co-founders how the last party evening went.
I got the rundown. Don't you worry. But anyway, yeah, really appreciate everyone taking the time. And Ellie, thank you for kind of moderating and keeping the flow going. Richard, thank you as always for the engagement, and for just everybody out there for trying out these tools, giving us feedback, and helping us make the developers' lives easier. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. I'm very excited for the next one. Starting from now, I think this is the first sort of Google meetup that we've done at Pieces. If I'm not mistaken, maybe we have done some others, but starting next month, we're probably going to be doing something like this once a month. So, feel free to send us a message on the Pieces account. That's me. I'll probably answer it. And if you have any ideas for, future topics, we are pretty much open to talk about anything, like whether it's developer life stuff, Burnout, Richard, whatever it is you want us to talk about. We want to be doing these meetups to kind of let you guys network with each other and connect with us and talk about cool things. So.
Totally. Well, sweet. Everyone have a great rest of the day, wherever you are, wherever in the world you are. And yeah, talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Hey guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks again, Lucas.
Thanks, Meg. Bye-bye.
I think that went okay. Oh, I can't hear you. Hang on.
Oh, I muted myself.
Oh, there you go.
I am going to make a retrospective doc about this because I think we should do this and see how it goes for a couple